3 years after 2012's Awakening, the Fire Emblem series returns to the Nintendo 3DS with Fire Emblem Fates. Fire Emblem Fates is not one, but 3 games, and those familiar with the Pokemon franchise will immediately recognize Fates' decision to split its story among 3 different versions. However, the similarities stop there. The big difference here is that although Fates offers 3 different versions of the same game, the story, gameplay, and even character interactions change dramatically from one version to the next. Yes, each version, Birthright, Conquest, and Revelation, are all nearly completely different full games that provide great experiences all on their own merits. The story across all 3 versions revolves around an age-old war between 2 kingdoms, Nor and Hoshido, and the player's decision over which kingdom to side with during the game's Branch of Fates sequence. Depending on the choices the player makes during this sequence is where the games start to play differently. In the Conquest route, choosing to side with Nor provides a much darker storyline, as the player chooses to fight against their true siblings and their birthplace, running the risk of fighting against their blood-born relatives. In the Birthright route, deciding to fight with Hoshido provides for a much lighter in tone storyline, as the player chooses to fight alongside their true siblings against the family they grew up with. The Revelation version of the game has the player choosing to side with neither of the kingdoms, and instead motivating them to rally against what the Avatar believes to be the true cause of the war. Regardless of the path you end up choosing, none of them end up feeling like the right or wrong choice, and this is largely credited to the game's fantastic storytelling, which holds its own throughout no matter which version you choose. If you're familiar with the Fire Emblem series, then combat should come almost second nature to you, especially if you've played Awakening since the gameplay is strongly similar. The newer additions to combat include new weapons such as katanas, naginatas, shuriken, and batons, as well as some new classes like Songstress, Wolfskin, Darkblood, Master Ninja, among others. The newer classes and weapons fit in well mechanically and lend themselves to the game's style nicely. In terms of presentation and production quality, Fire Emblem Fates is absolutely top-notch on the 3DS. While the overhead battle screen is rather simplistic, everything else from the small battle scenes on the field to the full-blown CG cinematics in some chapters are absolutely gorgeous. There is a ton to see and do outside of battling from chapter to chapter, all of which can be accessed through My Castle. My Castle is similar in functionality to Awakening's overworld map layout and works miles better. In My Castle, the player can interact with other characters in their party, participate in lottery drawings for items, and even challenge other players online in castle battles. Castle Battles is a feature I never got to try simply because every time I launched trying to find a match, nobody was online. This could be because of the times of day that I was searching or that the online community is not very populated yet. Either way, it was unfortunate to not be able to try out and thought I should note that here. Perhaps the most popular feature included in My Castle is the building of relationships between units. As you progress and fight throughout the game, units will passively gain relationship and affection points towards each other, which go towards unlocking more and more support conversations between units, making them stronger supports for each other in battles. Amiibo support is present in Fates as well. Robin, Marth, Ike, and Lucina can make appearances in Fates by scanning in any of their respective Amiibo figures. Upon scanning them in, the player can receive special items, as well as recruit them to use as part of their army. In my experience with the game, each version has its own difficulty for progression based on how many side quests and items per day are available to you through My Castle. The Conquest route proved to be the hardest of the 3 playthroughs due to there being a lot less opportunities to level up units outside of the main story, while Birthright and Revelation offer significantly more. The game's difficulty can be changed at any time through the options menu should things get too hairy though. Musically, the game aces with flying colors. The game features an absolutely stunning soundtrack that roams everywhere from soft piano ballads to high-tension battle themes. Lost in Thoughts All Alone is Fates' main tune that plays throughout in many different variations, and it is a beautiful piece that does a lot to personify the game and the events that unfold from beginning to end. This game is hard to give a rating given the circumstances, so I'll give out 3 scores for each version of the game. Birthright and Conquest both play out beautifully. The consequences that unfold from choosing to side with either kingdom are interesting to see, and proposes a lot of what-if moments that make you ponder whether that unit may have been your ally if you had sided with the opposing kingdom. Revelation, on the other hand, is going to be my favorite of the 3 simply because of the non-partisan role my character had. What I mean by that is by playing through either Birthright or Conquest, a lot of your character's decisions are influenced by characters of the kingdom you sided with. Revelation has little to none of this during its campaign, and because of that, it felt like I had more of an influence on the events that unfolded. In the end, Fire Emblem Fates is a game that, upon first impression, seems like a gimmick. There's essentially 3 different versions of the same game, that all revolve around the same story. However, What makes this work is the fact that they are all full games, each with their own unique events, experiences, and gameplay that separate each one from the others. If there was no other way around it, I would say this is the absolute best possible scenario for newer fans who just want to play the game, and for series veterans who want an even more expanded Fire Emblem experience. There's so much to see and do across all versions that if you're only able to pick up one, you can't go wrong with any of them. Has you actually playing and making up your own material on the fly during most songs. Appropriately titled Freestyle Solos, guitarists now have the ability to play whatever the presentation of previous entries is so absent here, especially when it was done so well in years past. Now, let's back it up since I am getting ahead of myself here. The great news for fans of the series is that the game still plays